Hello and welcome to Capes, Cowls, and Cartoons, where I discuss everything superhero and animated. DC. I just can't get away from this company, mostly because of their recent efforts to bring in new fans. And well, by new fans I mean old fans who went away. However, despite the failure of those comics, I always believe that DC has put out some of the best animated stuff around that showcases true superheroism. However, as of late, that's not always been the case. Now, DC does have some of the best animated shows and movies around, and I mean that on a technical level. Marvel's were always hit or miss for me, and they never had the same level of epic storytelling that DC had until they were bought out by Disney and produced Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the Avengers. DC, on the other hand, has had Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, and while it had a bit of a rocky start story-wise, the Legion of Superheroes was also quite fun. Bruce Timm has had his hand in just about everything DC has released, and it's really interesting to see his style of art gradually evolve over the years. We also cannot ignore the contribution of people such as Paul Dini, Andrea Romano, and the late great Dwayne McDuffie. However, in recent years, the straight-to-DVD movies have not held up to a high level of quality, and today's movie is a prime example of that. The movie today is Batman, Under the Red Hood, which was released in late July of 2010 and clocks in at just under 75 minutes in length. Part of the problem that one can see is its length, a mere 75 minutes to tell what's supposed to be a rather tragic tale of death and rebirth. Now, a good writer can take those 75 minutes and tell a good story. After all, Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, was only 75 minutes, and it felt like an epic story, and remains, to me, one of the best Batman movies ever told. And yes, I am putting it above the thuggish, civil rights violating Batman movies that Christopher Nolan made. However, we don't have Paul Dini and Bruce Timm writing this, but instead we have Judd Winnick. Comic fans know Judd Winnick as being competent at making women look incompetent, and his reputation is so bad that when he took over writing duties for Power Girl, which had previously been written by the awesome Jimmy Palmiotti, the sales for that series plummeted. He also wrote Black Canary, a second-generation superhero, and, as I've said before, one of the top 5 martial artists in the DC universe, looked like an incompetent boob and kept her married to some lame, stupid-ass Hawkeye wannabe called Green Arrow. As such, instead of a somber story, what we have is a repetitive beating over the head of the fact that Batman is angry, angsty, aggravated, and aggressive. He also feels guilty. Very, very guilty. So let's don our mask and wage some street-level vigilante-style criticism on this sucker. Now, aside from the animation, a cartoon is only as good as its voice acting, and longtime voice director Andrea Romano has brought in some stellar actors over the years to DC's animation department. Longtime fans will know I'm obviously talking about, well, Mark Hamill as the Joker. Except he's not here this time. For this outing we have John DiMaggio as the Clown Prince of Crime.
Please tell the big man I said hello.
And he's average at best. He's not terrible, and he is working in the shadow of Mark Hamill's excellent work. But even then, I just couldn't get into him all that much. One interesting choice I found was Neil Patrick Harris as Nightwing. I never would have thought Mr. Harris would do this kind of acting, but he does a good job, making Nightwing the fun, light-hearted costume vigilante that he is, and easily making him one of the highlights of this movie.
You know what I missed most about running with you? The toys.
Now, while we don't have longtime voice actor Kevin Conroy, we do have Bruce Greenwood, who also voices Batman over on Young Justice, and he turns in a fine performance. Wade Williams is good as Black Mask, and Kelly Hu is absolutely great as Miss Lee, delivering an unflappable facade in the face of Black Mask's tirades. who really shines the most out of all the voice actors is Supernatural star Jensen Ackles as Jason Todd and the Red Hood. Of the entire movie, his performance is about the only reason why I would recommend this movie to anyone. He instills Jason Todd with a rather dark sense of humor, mirroring him off of Nightwing. And in the final showdown with Batman, he somehow manages to put forth such incredibly powerful emotions such as hate and anger and love, all into one voice.
I don't know what clouds your judgment worse. Your guilt or your antiquated sense of morality. Bruce, I forgive you for not saving me.
I have no idea how he does it. And even after seeing this movie 3 times now, that scene continues to be as powerful as it was the first time I saw it. I'll go further into that scene once we start to discuss the story. It's great. What else do you expect? It's DC. I don't think cheap and badly done are even in their vocabulary. Ah, here's where things get interesting. And by interesting, I mean nicely done and then frustratingly ended. The story is about Jason Todd's return to Gotham City as the Red Hood, a persona that the Joker himself used to use, according to this story, and his final showdown with Batman and the Joker. For a bit of background, Jason returned to life in the comics because Superman Prime punched reality. Yeah, even for superhero comics, I found that to be incredibly absurd. However, in one of the few bits of good writing that John Winnick does here, Jason Todd is brought back to life because Ra's al Ghul dumps his lifeless corpse into a Lazarus pit. He goes a bit nutty though because of it.
He returned to this world, but returned damaged.
Just a bit. What hampers the story, though, is the near constant hammering in of how guilty Batman feels in making Jason Todd into Robin, and then his subsequent death at the hands of the Joker. Instead of letting the audience hear and see the emotional pain that Batman is feeling, we're instead treated to scenes like this.
Sir, please, remember how distraught you were. Even I found it hard. Stupid and careless.
And then this.
It is not your fault. I know that you view his death as your greatest failure, but...
His life and his death are my greatest failure. Do you remember how he was when I found him?
Of course, sir. Fearless, arrogant, brash, and gifted.
Yes, different than Dick in so many ways, but still so full of potential and power. But I knew, even from the beginning, he was dangerous. If I hadn't made him into Robin, he would have grown to do wrong. Then I got him killed. My partner. My soldier. My fault.
It's just beating us over the head with how guilty Batman feels about this, as though the audience is too stupid to understand the pain that he's in. The more cynical side of me also points out that how, well, in line this man pain is as compared to when Stephanie Brown was killed off, wherein she was just all but ignored and never even got a fucking memorial case. It's good that she's back, but sometimes I feel that Batman writers were afraid that Batman would get cooties or something. Another problem with this story is the complete lack of purpose behind Nightwing's appearance. One would think that in a story about former sidekicks, that Nightwing would serve as a mirror to Jason Todd, and that he would even interact with him to some degree. Nope, not here. At the most, he shows up, fights a mazo with Batman, informs Batman about Red Hood, gets injured, and then is written off for the rest of the movie. It's a waste of potential and a waste of fine voice acting by Neil Patrick Harris. Alfred, he hurt his knee. His knee, Alfred. He hurt his knee, not his leg. His knee. Forget it. What also struck me as odd was the complete absence of Oracle. She's not even mentioned here. Considering that this was based off of events in the Batman comic, one would think that she'd be involved to some degree or another, especially after this line.
Blindly, stupidly disregarding the entire graveyards he's filled. The thousands who have suffered, the friends he's crippled.
It's as though Judd Winnick doesn't even like Oracle and wanted her to have no part in this story whatsoever, focusing it solely on Batman and his man pain and the failure of Jason Todd. Heck, even Alfred's role seems diminished here as Batman all but ignores him, which is a crying shame because Alfred is the father figure in the Bat family, especially to Bruce Wayne. For example, let's take a look at Alfred when he talks to Batman once they find out the truth about Jason Todd.
Sir, please take this to heart. Who Jason was before, how we lost him, and this dark miracle or curse that has brought about his return. It is not your fault. I know that you view his death as your greatest failure, but...
His life and his death are my greatest failure.
Now, let's compare it to Alfred, who talks to Batman near the end of Mask of the Phantasm.
I couldn't save her, Alfred.
I don't think she wanted to be saved, sir. Vengeance blackens the soul, Bruce. I always feared you would become that which you fought against. You walk the edge of that abyss every night. But you haven't fallen in, and I thank heaven for that. But Andrea fell into that pit years ago. And no one, not even you, could have pulled her back.
Alfred is a pillar in Batman's life, someone solid and strong who not only supports him, but also is not afraid to stand up to him. Batman might not always agree with him, but he does not brush him off nowhere near as much as he does here in Under the Red Hood. Batman's attitude is also really selfish, as he doesn't even take into account how Alfred might feel. Alfred is the one who stitches him up after he gets cut or hurt, and offers him more emotional support than anyone else in Batman's life, I would argue. Alfred is, in short, Bruce Wayne's parent after he had lost his parents, and it'd be a role that he'd play to some degree or another to all the other Robins. It makes him as emotionally invested in the Bat family as Batman himself. But no, that's not taken into consideration here. It's all about Batman's pain, I tell you. Batman's man pain! The more I think about it, the more appeal this film loses, and I haven't even gotten to the ending. So let's look at what unravels this entire movie, the ending. Now, Jason's entire purpose was to have that final showdown with Batman and the Joker. But the Joker is in Arkham Asylum, where he can't get to him. So instead, Jason makes crime lord Black Mask so desperate that he breaks the Joker out in order to kill Jason. When Jason kidnaps the Joker, he and Batman have their final confrontation, and a fight that I can only describe as, I love you so much, I will beat the ever-loving shit out of you. They're just going at it so hard. I knew that this final showdown was going to be brutal in some way. I just didn't think that the physical side was going to be played up so much. When the fighting is done, and it's Batman being forced to make the choice of either shooting Jason Todd or the Joker, it easily becomes the highlight of this entire movie, with Jensen Ackles putting in a fantastic performance.
I'm not talking about killing Penguin, or Scarecrow, or Dent. I'm talking about him. Just him. And doing it because he took me away from you.
That this movie did not deserve. Why? Because when Batman disarms Jason, Jason sets off a timer on a bomb, and there's a brief struggle between the Joker and Batman. Batman knocks the Joker away where he lands by the bomb. In the last few seconds before it detonates, Batman goes to Jason to save him. But guess who survives the explosion? Well, Batman, okay, that's not really a surprise. But also the Joker, who was 2 feet away from the goddamn bomb. I mean, look at that devastation. How could he survive that? And where's Jason Todd? He's just gone. Just gone. I mean, even a bomb of that size would not eradicate him completely. There'd still be some bloody chunks splashed over the remains of the floor and ceiling like a bad human pasta. But nope, he's just gone. The Joker is put back in Arkham Asylum. There's no mention of what happened to Jason Todd. And Batman says this. Oh, oops, sorry, I had the Christian Bale filter on. Hang on.
This doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything at all.
This changes nothing? This changes nothing. You just invalidated the entire movie, Judd Winnick. If you've written an ending like that, then why even make this movie to begin with? You took no risk and you did nothing different. It was a waste of everyone's time. You know why I really love the ending to Batman Arkham City? You know why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the Joker dies, Ra's al Ghul dies, friggin' Hugo Strange dies. Paul Dini, the lead writer, knew he was free from the shackles of the comics and went, pardon the pun, bat crazy with it. It's a fabulous ending to a great game where the stakes were absolutely insanely high and you're left with the feeling that nothing will ever be the same again. Not so here. Instead, we're treated to Jason Todd about to embark on his first day as Robin, and then that's it. End the story. This is one of the weakest endings I've ever had the misfortune to watch and makes all the time I spent watching it feel like a complete waste. Judd Winnick, you fail! Well, I hope you enjoyed today's review. I'm Triple J, and I gotta put on a new shirt. Later.
Something inside me that pulls beneath the surface, consuming, confusing. This lack of self-control I fear is never ending. Control